You're probably wasting $1,000 every single day on Amazon ads without even realizing it. And no, this isn't just theory. This is the exact framework that 8 and 9 figure brands on Amazon use to print cash from Amazon ads. And today, I'm going to hand it to you. I currently manage more than 8 figures of revenue on Amazon and more than $1 million a month in Amazon ad spend. I've exited 2 Amazon businesses and I've spent hundreds of thousands of dollars of my own money on Amazon ads. So here's what you're going to learn. First, a 3-step framework to classifying your ad spend. Second, how to determine if branded ad spending is actually worth it or you're just burning money. And third, how to use Amazon to acquire new customers to your brand. But first, let's start with the foundation. Let's talk about incremental growth. There's essentially 3 questions you need to ask when thinking about Amazon ads. Would I get this sale if I didn't pay for it? Where are my ad dollars best allocated? And what targets should I have for my ad spend? And if you think about it, there's going to be 3 buckets that every single one of your campaigns should fit into. Let's talk about them. Branded terms, generic terms, and competitor terms. And you can rank these on a measure of incremental growth. So if we think about it, branded terms are probably going to be the least incremental, while competitor terms are probably going to be the most incremental. And there's a spectrum here. So let's dive into every single one of these and let's dive deep. So branded terms, so these are when your customers search for your brand directly because of Facebook, TikTok, email, and we have some examples of brands here. Now, why should you advertise on branded terms? People are searching for your brand and you need to be found, and obviously you want to show up before any competitors. However, what's like the point of branded ads? Defense. So, but these people already know your brand, so don't overspend. How can you measure incremental growth? There's 2 core KPIs that I like to look at. One is found in Campaign Manager, the top of search impression share. This essentially shows you how often you're showing up top of search and ahead of any competitors who are bidding on your branded terms. And then the second in the core KPI is the search query performance. This is your brand purchase share. So you want to measure both of these metrics against your branded ad spend and look for any trends. Brand purchase share in particular is probably the core KPI here. If you're already capturing 80% of branded purchases, you're probably dominating. And then you can test and pull back branded ad spend and then see how it affects your brand purchase share. Now, for one client, we did this test and we were able to drop branded ad spend by $12,000 in a single month without any change to overall revenue. And if you want to see the full case study of what we did for them, then you can read the description and grab it there. But if we want to move on to incremental terms, let's look at generic terms. So this is where growth actually begins. So this is when customers search for keywords in your category and they're not searching for different brands. They're searching for the generic term. So Vital Proteins, this is a supplement brand and they sell collagen supplements. So an example of a generic term would be collagen supplement. The Zesty Paws, this is a dog supplement. So if somebody's searching for dog supplements, this would be a generic keyword. And then Simple Modern, obviously like water bottles for kids. Now, if you think about generic keywords, you use these to build category awareness on Amazon and really reach new customers. These are people who may or may not have heard of your brand, and you want to get in front of them on Amazon. So for these, this is where your scaling really starts. Now, how do you think about return on ad spend and incremental growth for these? Well, first, what should you expect? You should expect a lower return on ad spend, 2.5 to 3.5, depending on the category. And then for these, you really want to prioritize profitable sales and driving contribution margin on Amazon. The core KPI you're actually going to look at is your conversion rate versus competitors. And the reason you want to look at that is because if you think about Amazon from a bottom-up perspective, then Amazon prioritizes products with the highest sales volume and the highest conversion rate. So if you have a high conversion rate compared to competitors on a generic keyword, then as long as you push enough volume through that keyword, you should see your organic rank rise. But let's move on to my favorite strategy in this last bucket. So this is competitor terms. And this is when customers are searching for direct competitors in your category. So you're directly stealing a sale from your competitor and converting them to a customer of your brand. Now, This is kind of one of my favorite strategies, and here's why. One, you're stealing sales from a competitor. So this competitor would normally have that sale. You're getting right in front of their face and stealing them for your brand. And typically, you want to advertise against worse products in your category. So, for example, if you have a 5-star review score and your competitors all have 4 stars, that's a great opportunity to steal their sales. And this is definitely the most incremental because you're directly stealing sales from a competitor. Now, should you expect when running this type of strategy? First, you're going to have a high bid, you're going to have a high cost per click. You're probably also going to see a low return on ad spend, typically in the range of 1.0 to 1.5x. And I typically like to run these at a break even slash even a slight loss because we're directly advertising against competitors and we're taking away market share and adding it to ours. Now, one key tip I like to use is I like to use cheaper ad units. Typically, sponsored products, product pages tend to be pretty cheap. And then sponsored display ad units tend to be cheaper than the traditional sponsored product atop a search placement and the sponsored brand placement. Now, let's put this all together. So, if we think about incremental growth and we think about these 3 buckets, we can arrive at an arrangement and we can arrive at different return on ad spend targets for each of these buckets. First of all, we have branded terms. And if we think about incrementality, the sample return on ad spend target we typically have for these is 5 to 10x. As long as we're being shown first organically and our brand purchase share is above 80%, then we're doing pretty good here. And we just need to monitor our branded ad spend. Now, generic terms, this is where we can start to scale into the overall category. So a general return on ad spend target, and again, this is going to be very, very category specific, would be 2.5 to 3.5 times. Third, we have our comparator terms. This is typically the most incremental. We're stealing market share from competitors. We're adding it to ours. These we will run at like a 1.0 return on ad spend, maybe even slightly negative. Now, I want to show you this in a live account that we're managing. I will blur out any of the sensitive information, but let's get into it. Okay, so here we can see inside of a live ad account, and this is Data Dive's rank tracking feature. I really like it because of how it displays the data. Now, the core things I really want to show here is here we can see the search terms. We can also see our PPC data over here. But I want to show you the highlights because this is how I show competitor, generic, or branded terms. And using these highlights, we can very easily see the ad spend for competitors, for generic, and for branded. Now, this situation is a little bit unique because there's one massive competitor in this niche, and we are running ads against them. As you can see, they have a monthly search volume of 78,000 searches per month, so they're pretty big. And we're trying to organically rank right behind them on the page. So we're organically ranking number 31 right now, and we're trying to get it up to 15. For our own branded terms, obviously we've been ranking number 1. And then for our generic terms, we've seen some variations in rank, but we're trying to stabilize in the top 8. So if you use any sort of rank tracking, and I highly encourage that you do, I would implement this kind of tagging system so that you can very easily see how much of your ad spend is going to these different buckets and implement different return on ad spend targets for each of these. So that's how the smartest brands on Amazon scale ads without lighting money on fire. But there's one thing I didn't tell you. You're probably still losing money on Amazon because your Amazon listing isn't built for conversion. I did a live listing teardown of a listing on Amazon. I broke down exactly what I changed in order to increase the conversion rate. So click on this video here to see exactly how to optimize your listing for maximum performance. I'll see you there.